Hello and welcome to the Weird Around Illinois podcast. You may recall several episodes ago, many episodes ago actually, we talked about how we wanted to visit a place called Holy Hill in Wisconsin. We finally went there and we'd like to tell you about it. So let's get weird. Just as a quick refresher on Holy Hill, and I do invite you to go back and listen to our original podcast on it because we go a lot more in depth on what was cited there. There is a lot going on at the whole Holy Hill area, which is sort of northwest-ish of Milwaukee. It's a holy site. It's a Catholic church, I believe, on a huge hill. In that general area, there have been sightings of dogman, possible sightings or soundings of Bigfoot, something called goatman, something called hookman, and of course your standard cemetery sightings with ghosts and orbs and such. And in addition to that, some of the shrines on the hill are supposed to have this healing power, so that whatever ails you, you can go there and be healed. I read stories about finding like crutches and glasses and things that were left there by people who were healed, but I didn't see anything like that. But we'll get into what we found in just a moment. We did go to the Holy Hill structure first because it's kind of hard to miss. It's a huge place. As seems to be our pattern, we got there like half an hour before it closed.
Yeah.
So we were racing up the uneven wooden steps, trying not to break our ankles.
Yeah, I think on the drive there, I said this out loud. It looked like a scene from Harry Potter.
Yeah, definitely.
Big castle. It was quite literally a castle.
It was. It really was. It didn't look like a church as much as it looked like a castle. You're right. And one of the things that I noticed before we even started walking up it, it was surrounded by woods. It wasn't like there's a little wooded area next to the church. It's like this church was built in the middle of this dense forest.
It was definitely surrounded by it. I mean, I didn't notice the forest at first, but yeah, it's definitely just one little hole with a big castle.
Right. And there were several shrines I noticed on the way up. Like there were mostly shrines to Mary, and I know we thought it was a little weird that one of them there were people had left offerings, like taped money to the statue of Mary, and they left various things around. I didn't see any bottles of Gatorade like we saw in the what was it, the Tibetan Bigfoot shrine.
Yeah, it was on Paranormal caught on camera, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was like a Southeast Asian shrine.
Yeah, something like that.
There was definitely a vibe there. It felt like a holy place. And for what it's worth, I had a headache when I got there, and it was gone when we left. So, was I healed, or was it just, I was stressing about the drive and got over the stress once we got there? I don't know. But it was interesting how the headache went away. We saw one of the oldest crosses, or possibly the oldest cross in North America, from the 1800s, was it? The big wooden cross?
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't get a good look at the information that was like on the piece of paper. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I took a picture of it.
Yeah.
I got it on video, so it'll be on screen, but...
Yeah, there have to be older crosses in America, but this is like the biggest, oldest cross or something.
Yeah. And while we were kind of admiring it, this lady kind of came by and explained more of the background, I believe.
Yeah, the big thing she mentioned is that it was a gift to Marquette. That he was the one who had brought the cross there. It was interesting. I really wish we'd got there earlier so that we could spend some more time just sightseeing and checking out the area and the architecture of the church itself. It was really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, we're so high up, you could see so many of the forests. Honestly, at that point, I was looking for any cryptid.
Yeah,
like even Mothman could be flying anywhere.
Yeah, we should have kept an eye out for like some trees being wobbled around.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we got there a half hour before all the buildings closed, but what they didn't tell us is that the big tower closed a half hour before that. So we never got to go up in the big observation tower that would have allowed us to see like everything.
That would have been so cool.
Yeah, and that would have. Then we could have been looking for shaking trees and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We could have each just picked a window and set up there with our cameras and waited. But we did go down into the woods for a closer look. There's something called the Ice Age Trail that kind of cuts right through the property of the Holy Hill, and also goes through some surrounding nature parks and state parks. So we took a walk through one loop of it, and I remember the thing that jumped out at me, and we had kind of a disagreement over what this was, but
You hear that, Steven?
there was a huge field of mist in the middle of the day, or at least that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
And my first thought as soon as I saw it was, Dogman!
Yeah, I mean, we all could clearly see at first that it looked like mist. It was... My theory is that it was a illusion, almost, of a mixture of... It was some, like, very yellow wheat or grass, and it was kind of mixed with the background of the forest. I don't know how to explain it, but it just looked like it was definitely an illusion and not exactly fog.
Yeah. To me, the grass just looked like lighter. It looked closer to the color of white than most of them, and just kind of looked like mist in the distance to me.
Now, to me, I looked at that field, and I looked at another part of the field, which was the exact same color, and I saw mist over one of them, and I didn't see mist over the other. So
there's a clear difference?
There was to me. But that being said, as we got closer, the mist seemed to dissipate to me, which would lend credence to your theories that it was just an optical illusion.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, I really felt like I was looking at mist in the middle of the day, which made absolutely no sense. As Travis would say, that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't rain like the day before, from what I remember.
No.
Sunny days.
Yeah. I was expecting Dogman to jump out of that field or the woods around that field. I was quite disappointed when he didn't show up.
Yeah, I didn't have like any strange feelings when I was there, though.
No. Just for me, it was just the mist. That was the only thing that had me looking for Dogman. There wasn't like a strong feeling. There was some kind of weird Bigfoot kind of sign there.
Yeah, it wasn't that complicated, but it was made up of 3 to 5 sticks, kind of stacked in the right formation.
Yeah, like a teepee.
Yeah, but what made it more likely to be human was that it was right next to a bench.
Yeah, it was. I would put that at about 95% likely to be made by a human.
Right.
But if you recall, there was another spot near there where we were walking across a bridge, and we found a footprint, a really long footprint in the soft ground next to the bridge. And now there was a human footprint next to it with the treads of a shoe, but this one had no treads, and it looked to me like there were toes. I could make out at least 3 toes in the end of it, and I couldn't figure out why anybody would walk barefoot off of that bridge.
Yeah, I never got a good sight of it, but I have a question. Was it like bigger than normal?
Yes.
Like much bigger?
It was a good 4 inches or 3 to 4 inches longer than my shoe, I think.
Oh wow!
And I've got a pretty big shoe.
Yeah.
But it was very narrow. For a Bigfoot, it was narrow. So I don't know. Maybe it was something else. Maybe somebody had like a log or something that they dropped there and then picked up for some reason. I don't know.
It was Slenderman.
Yeah. So one thing that we were really looking for at Holy Hill was the cemetery, because we'd heard about ghost sightings and things like that.
People have apparently seen ghosts there.
I remember something about orbs as well.
I was kind of expecting to see the cemetery like around the like Holy Hill area where the giant like castle was.
Yeah.
But we looked all around there, and as we said, we got a really good view of the whole thing, and we just didn't see it.
Yeah, it was it was called either Holy Hill Cemetery or what was the other name?
It's called Carmelite.
Carmelite Cemetery. It's the Carmelite the Carmelite monks or the Carmelite priests were the ones who founded Holy Hill. And I swear on Google Maps a year ago when we were looking at this, there was a clear indication of where Carmelite Cemetery was. I remember seeing it on the map really clearly.
Huh.
And this time we looked at it and it was nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, almost a year ago, I remember I was the one that recommended, like I saw an article about it. You guys did your research about it. It gave an address, and I looked at the same article, like that same day we were in the investigation. It gave an address, and it was the same address near here, or near the place that we were at.
Yeah, I think it might have been just the generic address of Holy Hill.
Yeah.
But there was nothing. I mean, there were no, like on the site map for Holy Hill, the "you are here" kind of thing, there was no indication of where the cemetery was. We saw no signs for a cemetery.
However, there was that big area for a parking lot.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm still suspicious that area was originally made for some kind of cemetery.
It was laid out like a cemetery.
I'm pretty convinced.
It's pretty possible, but I will say about a month ago I looked on Google Maps. I tried to find any spot that looked like a cemetery, and eventually I found, like, on Station Way Road, there was like a little area of what looked like a cemetery. I kind of compared it to other cemeteries on Google Maps, and it kind of looked the same. It was really small, but it had that kind of look.
Well, we may have to go back and take a look at that then, because I don't understand how a cemetery can disappear. And I don't understand why they would erase a cemetery from the public record. It seems very suspicious to me.
The cemetery is on a road that we didn't really go on at all. Like Station Way Road, that was like the one road we didn't go on.
Yeah, I think we drove every other one in the town, or in the county.
Yeah.
What was seen there that made the whatever was behind the action of deleting it? What convinced them to really get rid of the evidence, basically?
Yeah. Or did they just move the cemetery? Did they, like, officially close it down and say, well, we don't need this cemetery anymore. People don't remember these people. It seems like a pretty rude thing to do.
Yeah. They wouldn't just do that.
I wouldn't think so, especially not a holy consecrated cemetery that supposedly contains the bodies of the priests and monks who were there. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Or that just doesn't make any sense.
Now, they could have moved maybe the bodies to another cemetery. There were 2 other ones within the area.
Yeah, there was like a St. Mary's cemetery, and there was another one.
Yeah, I can't remember the names, but there were definitely 2.
Yeah. Possible, but again, why?
Yeah, well, we may or may not know.
I mean, were so many people visiting? Were they, like, defiling the graves or something? Like what was happening at the White Cemetery and some of the other ones we visited?
That's a good point. Maybe they maybe some, the younger generation did some more graffiti and ended up ruining the place because they didn't have the budget to, like, recreate everything.
Yeah. So, public service message. Stop messing with cemeteries. You're ruining it for everybody. We just want to see some ghosts.
Yeah.
And we can't do it if you're going to be out there, smoking and drinking and spray painting graffiti on headstones and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Next, we went to Hogsback Road. And Hogsback Road, for one thing, I see why it's called Hogsback Road, because it's kind of like it's ridged like the back of a wild hog. It's like this narrow road that has a steep cliff on either side of it.
Yeah, I think actually in the article it warned us that there were some very wild turns and just a wild area to drive by.
Yeah.
But this place is obviously known for the goatman.
Mm-hmm.
Goatman.
And Hookman.
Wait, what?
Goatman and Hookman were both seen.
Oh, and Hookman.
Yeah.
You're right. I forgot about that. That was in the same area, but
Yeah.
either way. Goatman is obviously a taller being within the 7 or 8 foot tall length or height. And he is known for going in front of your car and trying to run you off the sides of the road. Obviously, it's a very dangerous area. It would make a lot of sense why a evil being would go try and get you off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my thoughts about this as well that I want to add. If someone were to be really, really drunk and they were driving on that road, they could have easily made that excuse or just have been hallucinating that.
Or they could have seen a deer. We passed several deer on that road.
That's an even better point. That would be a great replacement if your eyesight was all over the place.
Yeah. But let's face it, there's a tavern on every corner in most parts of Wisconsin, so the odds of somebody driving drunk on that road are pretty decent.
I also noticed there weren't really any sightings of it, not individual reports anyway.
Yeah,
I just kind of saw it generally in an article.
Yeah, it was one of those somebody heard from somebody else who heard from somebody else that way back when this happened to somebody.
Yeah.
Seems like we've been running into a lot of those lately. They're starting to annoy me. There were some private houses, believe it or not, on Hogsback Road, built into the side of the mountain. I wasn't sure if I envied those people or if I was scared for their lives, but I have a feeling that some of those private residences are what used to be the spots where people would pull off and eventually run into Goatman or
The Hookman?
the Hookman or whoever. So we cruised up and down Hogsback Road a couple times, daylight, dusk, night, and we didn't see anything except deer. So I wouldn't worry too much about Goatman if you're going down Hogsback Road, unless you've had too much to drink. The next place we visited was Low Lake. Now, there wasn't a tremendous history for Low Lake. Someone had heard a wood knock there, and they reported it on the BFRO site. So the only reason I really added this to our itinerary is I thought it was one of the nicer wooded areas we could walk through without, running into a lot of people. Secluded woods, that was probably our best shot to find Bigfoot or dogman or whatever. The start of the walk was really interesting because we had like a bean field on our left, and on the right we had these pine trees. And there was nothing really special about it until we found these pathways, like game trails, leading into the pine trees. And then when we walked in, it was like another world in there.
Yeah, it went from super bright and beautiful to pure darkness. This was the face of death.
Yeah.
A hellhound, something that's gonna bite your leg and pull you in.
Yeah. And it was such prime Bigfoot habitat. I mean, it was there was this soft cushion of pine needles. You could feel your foot sinking like 2 inches every time you took a step.
That's true.
And it was so shady and cool in there and dark, and Bigfoot would love that area. So I immediately was not surprised by the wood knock. We checked a couple spots, in the pine forest there, and every spot looked really promising. We kept walking, and the walk turned into a ridiculously long walk. We kept thinking, okay, well, the lake must be right around here, because this is Low Lake, right? And we'll just walk to the lake and then turn around. And we kept not seeing the lake. And we get into some deeper woods at one point, and we had kind of our finding Bigfoot moment, because I kept stopping to do wood knocks every now and then. And after one set of wood knocks, we had the "there's something on the hill" moment where we hear something moving through the brush up to our right, and we look back and we're studying it, trying to find it. Couldn't see anything, even though it sounded like it was really big and really close.
Yeah.
Then I did another wood knock after that, and this time I got an answering wood knock immediately. But it's one of those things where it could have been my ears playing tricks on me. It could have been like a weird echo or something. But it sure sounded to me like something knocked back right away. But it was so soon after the knock that it left some doubt in my mind as to whether or not it was an echo. And so then we made it to some sort of a marsh, and I hope that wasn't the lake. Because it was pretty sad if that was the lake.
Yeah, I think on our way back we did end up seeing the lake.
Did we?
I don't remember seeing it at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was more of a pond.
Yeah, it was like a swamp almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was... We took the long trek back and swore we were never going to do a walk that long on a Bigfoot hunt again. And then after that, we decided it was time to do some Bryce-style investigation in the nice air-conditioned car.
Walking is gone for the day.
Yeah. We checked out Holy Hill Road, and we checked out a couple of places where dogman was supposedly sighted there, including the classic sighting that seems to always come up with dogman, where the guy is, collecting a dead deer off the road, and dogman steals it from the back of his truck. We checked that site out, didn't see anything. We checked Pleasant Hill Road, which was the site of either a dogman or Bigfoot sighting. I don't think even the reporter knew exactly what it was. And then we went down Scenic Road, and I found this one interesting because this was another dogman sighting that happened right next to a cemetery.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't see anything, but this was one of the rare times we couldn't get into this cemetery either, so I wouldn't have minded going in there right at dusk and kind of hanging out for a while and seeing what might try to kick us out.
Right.
if dogman is the guardian of those graves. Now, at some point in our adventures, we got hungry, as we often do, and we were trying to find a nice local place to go to, and we discovered a spot called the Barbecue Company. It was kind of a small place. It looked like it was more of a catering type place than an actual restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, in the title on Google Maps, it said company, so clearly it was a company for some spices and such. It was on display, in fact. Their spices.
Yeah, and it smelled like a meat house when we walked in. I mean, it was you walk in and you immediately smell meat. I would expected to find dogman there.
You're just sitting down waiting patiently.
Yeah.
It was weird that we saw grapes, like, in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to see that.
No, and I couldn't find anything on the menu that involved grapes.
Yeah, they had like baby tomatoes and grapes.
Yeah. But, the atmosphere, it wasn't the most welcoming restaurant we've ever been to. They seemed almost annoyed that we wanted food to actually eat there.
Yeah.
And they had, a couple small tables. It was very, very loud in there. It was not, again, not exactly a real friendly eating establishment, but I'm willing to bet that their catered barbecue is fantastic. Because that's clearly where they were putting their effort in. I saw people coming in and picking up big orders and taking them out, things like that. And their catering truck was constantly running out with big trays of food. But we were hungry, so we ordered. I think we all had the same thing. It was the bacon cheeseburger with the Chipotle mac and cheese.
Chipotle mac and cheese?
Yeah.
That's the title, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was all good overall. In my opinion, I think the burger was just decent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the mac and cheese was incredible. It was nice and spicy, and yet just mac and cheese. It wasn't overpowering. It was just right in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I don't even like spicy food, and I enjoyed the mac and cheese. It was very flavorful, great consistency. It wasn't runny or anything. It had plenty of cheese. It was very good. And the burger, there was nothing wrong with the burger. I mean, it was a decent sized burger. There was good bacon on it. There was good cheese on it. If I had one complaint, it may have been that the bun was too big, and it kind of dwarfed the rest of it. Yeah. What kind of bread did you say it had?
It was a brioche bun.
Yeah.
It's a brioche bun is like very popular for burgers nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very known for having more of a sweet yet savory flavor.
Yeah.
And I think the patty was actually well seasoned. It had good seasoning, but it was all in the center, not spread out equally.
See, to me, the bun wasn't really a problem at all.
Hmm.
What I found was there wasn't nearly enough cheese. I didn't taste the cheese at all until I was at the end.
And we were in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I think they only added like one slice of cheesing, and that's it. They should have added like 2 or 3 and melted it nicely.
Well, and here's the other part. Normally, I don't get into complaining about prices when we go to restaurants, but they charged $14 each for those burgers. And,
Wow.
and I'm sorry, but I could have got 3 burgers just as good as that for $14 at a number of establishments. It's if you're going to charge $14 for a burger, you got to step up your game.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't realize it was that expensive.
Yeah.
You could have stopped at McDonald's and gotten like 3 times the, maybe 10 times the burgers and
Yeah.
mac and cheese.
Yeah. And, the mac and cheese was good, and that certainly contributed to the value, but on the other hand, it wasn't like a big pile of mac and cheese either. It was a little side container.
Yeah.
It was a great flavor. It was certainly a good alternative to just having chips or fries with your burger. I thought it was really creative, but on the other hand, that maybe that gives you another $1. that doesn't quite make up the difference between an $8 hamburger and a $14 hamburger.
I generally feel like if you're looking forward to your sides more than the main entree, that's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, probably not. So for the barbecue company, their spices, if you want to buy those, they're probably good. If you want to order them to cater some big event and you want lots and lots of good meat, that's the place you want to go to, but don't stop in for a burger. You can do better.
Yeah.
So, in general, what do you think about Holy Hill?
It's definitely a place where I could picture any cryptid being. A lot of open area.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's a very religious place, so it's very spiritual, but I wouldn't say it's haunted or is really surrounded by many cryptids. I don't see any reason for a cryptid to be in that area. It was definitely some fair woods, I have to admit, but I just don't see it happening.
So do either of you think there's any point in going back?
It's a very far drive. Personally, I wouldn't want to. Only for the cemetery. That would be the only reason.
I'd say it'd be worth it. I think there are a lot of woods, one of the bigger amounts of woods
Yeah.
I've been to, because especially like in Illinois, there's a lot of like small like bits of woods.
Yeah,
But
with
this-
roads really close by.
This was like road surrounded by woods.
Yeah.
So this is a bit different.
Yeah, and it would be more likely for a Bigfoot to be in the area because it's a spiritual place, as I said before. I think Dogman is more known for being on the kind of on the spiritual side of being more evil. It's related to the Hellhound. That's what we kind of mention that's what I mention often. So I wouldn't even mention a Dogman being there.
I guess I would be curious to go back a little earlier so that we could take advantage of that lookout tower and kind of look around and see, number one, if we can find that cemetery, and number two, if there's anything moving in the woods, any trees shaking, any obvious signs like that. I don't see any point in going back to Hogsback Road. I don't see any point in going back to any of those kind of extemporaneous, dogman sightings and, at this intersection or that intersection. If we were to go back, I'd say we go to the Holy Hill site during the day and then find one of those nice, thick, wooded state parks and wander around those woods at dusk and nighttime and see what we could find.
Yeah, I think the real main problem was there weren't enough like spaces that you could walk around where the Dogman sightings were.
Yeah, they were like private property and stuff.
Yeah, because there were a lot of Dogman sightings, especially on like Holy Hill Road. But we just couldn't walk on those woods.
Yeah, or in that cemetery or anything else. Well, that's our assessment of Holy Hill. If any of you have been there and know of any other sightings there or any spots we should check out if we ever go back, we'd love to hear about them. And as always, thank you for listening and thank you for subscribing.